Hi, my name is Thomas Johnson, and I'm the founder and CEO of GetUpNGetFit Wellness Coaching Concierge. I'm also a C-suite advisor and investor, and you're listening to the How May I Serve You podcast, where I'm constantly on the quest to surround myself with the best coaches while learning how to better serve our executive clientele by asking them, how may I serve you? Today's show is sponsored by GetUpNGetFit. GetUpNGetFit will be providing students with textbooks and school supplies in Cambodia in honor of our guest today, as well as our philanthropic mission to impact at least 50,000 people per year. So today's guest is Lisa Platske. How you doing, Lisa Marie Platske? What's going on?
Hello, Thomas. It's great to be here with you. And my question is, why did we pick Cambodia?
You know what? So Cambodia is just one of the places that we're actually connecting with, right? And I think it's a great little nation, right? So and I have some people in surrounding nations. So Cambodia is one of the great places.
I love it. I was like, okay, Cambodia. Why did we pick that? Like, is that specific to this? Are we going to talk about that? I'm excited.
So everyone, Lisa Marie Platske is an award-winning leadership expert in human behavior, right? So when she asked me that question, it was for a reason. A certified master coach and an international best-selling author, recognized by the White House and Small Business Administration. She worked with over 100,000 leaders to have a bigger positive impact globally and bringing forgiveness and vulnerability into the workspace. Lisa, that's amazing right there.
Well, those are important topics, forgiveness and vulnerability. Gosh, to be carrying stuff around if you're in a place of unforgiveness, it just colors your work in a way that's not good for the person who's receiving your information, and certainly not good for you in putting it out in the world.
Yes, indeed. And I've heard somebody mention, by you not forgiving the person is almost like you're swallowing poison, expecting the person to fall over.
Right. Exactly. I say it's the one thing that can change your present, it can change your past, and it can change your future.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So Lisa, let's dive into your story because your resume is pretty awesome right there. So let's dive into your story. So give me the 2-minute version of who is Lisa Marie Platske, right? And where are you from? How did you get started?
The 2-minute mini version. I love that. So my growing up, I've lived all over the United States. You've lived outside the country, and I've lived all over in many cities in the United States. But I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and loved growing up there. However, growing up was, had some hard times. It was growing up in a family where domestic violence was present, and calling the police as a little kid was had its challenges, and it gave me the gift of compassion. It's the first place where forgiveness showed up, and where me noticing how the desire to not want to be vulnerable and share was so ever present, and went into banking and law enforcement, federal law enforcement, after my primary and secondary education, and loved that, and opened my business 18 years ago, coaching and training. Started off primarily in the training, and then got into the coaching a little bit later on, leaders. And really ultimately, when I was trying to figure out like which part of leadership was I about, Thomas, it was all about like who you need to be to have what you want. And so you and I have had conversation about how the Holy Spirit informs that work that I do, and that's my short version.
Awesome. So Lisa, let's dive back a tad bit. You mentioned you were in banking, then you transitioned to law enforcement before becoming a coach. Let's talk to me about that transition from banking to law enforcement.
Well, the banking part was because after I got out of college, there was a freeze in the government. And so it wasn't possible to get a job. Everything was like a 3-year waiting list. And so I was looking for what could I do. And I applied to other jobs. However, in my community, I was in the summertime, I had the opportunity to go and to work at a community credit union. And when I was there, I got involved in one of the facets of working in insurance, and for people who didn't have insurance on their home loans, placing that, giving that to them. uh, I was on the teller line, did a lot of different elements in the banking world, from the lowest level of filing, to working my way up. And ultimately, when I got that job to work in law enforcement, I knew that that's where I was supposed to be.
Okay.
So
And how long were you in the law enforcement role?
10 years,
10
little
years.
over, a little over 10 years.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
So would you say you've brought over some of your, I guess, some of your lessons from law enforcement to coaching?
Every single piece of it. Law enforcement was simply about it. For me, it was about human behavior, paying
Okay.
attention to people, paying attention to how they operate, how they're hardwired, why they do what they do. And coaching is so much a part of that. And the other thing is that, I learned so much about myself
Mm,
in when I was in law enforcement, how I operate, how I do things, the things that concern me, the things that, that I'm afraid of. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it that way. And, at the time. I do now.
okay. Okay. So I would like to know what is so fascinating about human behavior, because that you are a human behavior expert, right? Um, an award-winning leadership expert in human behavior. What led you towards that sector of
So,
science, I would say?
well, it's just like what I said in law enforcement. Like, so imagine like you're someplace and um, you've got, what I would call temptation around you. You've got, cash on one side, and you've got cocaine or heroin on the other side, and you've got this temptation in front of you. Humans behave in interesting ways
Hmm.
around, when faced with something that is what I would say, you know, um, temptation, integrity. How integrous are you? And so there are elements of the law enforcement piece that I see and notice in the coaching world. What happens when somebody gets an opportunity in business to do the right thing or to take the shortcut?
Mm.
What do they do? Do they do what's easy, or do they do what's right? Or do they create a story around that? See, I think in law enforcement, what's really interesting is people think that there are, uh, bad officers, and I put that in air quotes, and good officers. And really, we're all just humans doing the best that we can every day.
Sure.
And when faced with the wrong set of circumstances, via people, via life, um, how we behave is influenced in a way that has us make choices that perhaps are not that don't have anything to do with really what we believe. And sometimes they do. Sometimes it's a slow erosion. And so that's what I love about the idea of examination of human behavior. Like, why do people make the choices they do under pressure, under stress, when things are in ideal circumstances? Where does it come from? And even for myself, like, when I see something and think, well, I could do that, and I could make that phone call, and or I could do this over here, but this over here is a lot harder. And so I find that in business, that there's so much of that, and especially when we talk about money, it exacerbates things.
Mm.
Um, there have been times um, there's been times when I have experienced where, um, doing the right thing isn't the easy choice. I'm sure you've
True.
experienced that too. So, our behavior is affected not only by external circumstances, but our internal.
The compass, yeah, definitely internal compass. So let's dive into that a bit more, because I know you and I, we're both big when it comes to getting our morality from our faith, our beliefs, right? I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ, and my moral compass stems from God. So my value hierarchy is God, peace of mind, and then family. God is my foundation, peace of mind, because without my peace of mind, I can't be the best TJ, I can't be the best Thomas, I can't be the best boss, the best, you know, whatever other hats I wear, right? And then family, family is important. So that's my value hierarchy right there.
Yep.
So let's. Would you say that in terms of people's behavior, their reaction, um, depending on where their foundation lies, that determines how they tend to react to the world? Would you say that or no?
What I would say is that not necessarily where their foundation lies, where it is that they actually are. And maybe you would use the word foundation, because we might just be using, different words.
Yeah.
The you know the strongest belief, the
Mm,
strongest value that they
mhm.
have, which you could call, your foundation, that part gives information to how we make decisions. And so when somebody isn't clear, it's easy to waver. It's easy to end up in places that you didn't expect, or that you didn't think that you would be, that you would face. And so, um, I find that there are people that I know who speak about faith. However, it's not rooted. It's not. Mm, there's questioning in their belief, and so that's the reason why the behavior doesn't translate. It's out of alignment.
Wow. 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 I just got goosebumps. And the reason why I got goosebumps is because I've had this conversation before with friends and family members, right? I'm big on practicing what you preach. And I'm the same way, I lean on my faith, right? I study faith. I dive so deep on this subject, but I digress.
Oh, it means, it's so valuable. And I have the same piece, for myself, where
Yeah.
since I've been a little girl, since I've been 6 years old, I hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, and I ask
Powerful.
constantly, like, is this my decision to make? Is this my decision to make? Is this my decision to make? And even though that's true, Thomas, there were times in my life where, there's no part of me where you would look at and you would go, oh yeah, like that person's really rooted in the Holy Spirit. You would have been, because there were times when, um, after I was, betrayed, my first response was anger. I mean, I had anger issues, and my first response was, how am I going to get back at this person? That by no means was tied into the Holy Spirit at all. And so the more that I ignored those pieces of me, the
Hmm.
more that I couldn't externally emote what would be something that would be the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And so foundationally, you could say that it was there for me. I just didn't necessarily operate through that belief in a way that had my behavior show up in an honoring, um, to that truth.
But you know what, Lisa? Lisa Marie, just the fact that you are able to acknowledge that shows growth, right? And that's what it's about. You go through various experiences so you can learn from these experiences, right? You either go through an experience and become a victim, or you become a victor, right? And you
Right.
became a victor because you learned from that experience. Learn, right? The word learn has earning it, right? That's the word,
Yeah,
earning
yeah.
it.
Comes with a cost, right? Yes.
Comes with a
Yeah,
cost, but you have to go through the experience.
yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
that's it. That is so true. That's really true. You know,
So
and
let's dive back into coaching because
okay.
you have been able to tie your beliefs and your strength into your coaching practice, and I love it because you are operating in your truth, right? It's nothing else like being fully invested in what you stand for, right? It's a beautiful thing. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So how do you differentiate yourself from other coaching and the coaching styles?
Well, when I first opened my business, Thomas, I wasn't seeking to be a coach. I was seeking to be a trainer.
Okay.
And when I got messages from people saying, "Will you coach me? Will you work with me one-on-one?" My answer at first was, "No, I will not. Like this is the work that I do as a trainer. This is what I'm called to do."
Hmm.
And the more that I got asked, that's when I had gone in to get the coaching certification and the master coaching certification. However, in doing that, what I learned is that coaching is about appreciative inquiry and allowing people to come to their own answers. And you understand that. And there's sometimes when you have such a block that you just can't see it. And so what I feel is different, perhaps, a bit different, is that I take the training, I take the mentorship, I take the coaching, I take the consulting that I've done, and I blend it all together with the understanding that I'm also going to get messages from the Holy Spirit. And that's my unique style of how I
Mm,
coach, is that
okay.
I'm doing all of the listening. I'm doing the listening, and I'm not interested in giving people answers, and at sometimes there's a prompt needed. And that's not traditional coaching. That's not,
Mm,
we don't do that in the traditional coaching world. So I'm mindful of telling people, like, I'm putting on this hat, or I'm gonna,
mhm.
do you really want me to share what I'm I'm seeing? Or I think right now I shouldn't share that. Right now I'd rather ask you some questions. And so in that dance with people.
Okay, so you're not reactive. You take your time. You wait to, um, I guess you wait to get in tune with that other side of you, and that's amazing right there. Myself personally, I'm an empath, right? So I'm able to feel people at a higher level. I realized this later in my years, in my 30s, right? And I'm also like most people, when you hear the word listen, you think about just listening with your ears, right? You don't listen to respond, you don't listen to feel, right? So I've learned how to listen to feel instead of just listening to be responsive.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that's where you and I have a connectivity. We're very connected when it comes to that.
I was going to say that was one of the things when we first met, that I was like, I see you. I understand where you're coming from. Oh, yeah, I got that. Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
So if someone were looking for a coach, right, what traits would you advise for them to look for?
That is a great question, because I have multiple coaches. Like,
Okay.
I have 3 coaches that I work with right now, and I'm grateful for every single one. And the when I think about my own journey of, like, what do I look for? What do I see as most important? There's research that was done by Kozis and Posner, leadership research. And since I do leadership coaching, I happen to love the leadership world. And their research shows that the 4 most important qualities in a leader, or that followers have said over and over again over the decades, are integrity, forward thinking, inspiration, and competence. And so
Mm,
when I think about what I'm looking for in coaching, it's that, like, number 1 is integrity. Like, am I seeing that that they keep their word or they make things right. That's number one for me. And so how do I go about doing that? I'm doing some research and I'm actually having conversations with people. Like, that's really important to me. And somebody forward thinking, somebody who's able to help me see things in the future that I can't see. I remember years ago, I had a coach that said to me, Lisa, you're one disaster from going out of business. And I thought, that's a terrible thing to tell somebody. And what I'll tell you is that one statement that he made had me turn 3 things around in my business. And when 2020 hit and certain colleagues of mine were struggling in their coaching business, I was not. Because I had already gone through all those things that he told me to do, when he said, you're one disaster from going out of business. So forward thinking. And then the other thing, for me that I'm looking at is somebody who also can inspire me, like by the work that they're doing, the consistency they're doing. And then that idea of competence, which, is that the coaches that I have are not in my field. They're not in the industry in which I work in. And yet at the same time, they are so competent in what they do that they're a good fit. And so I always tell people, like, ask questions, ask a lot of questions, and then, and listen to the answers. This is not, it's not a personality piece. It's not, the coaches that I work with are very different from me, very, very different. And they challenge me in a way that makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm annoyed. Like, I am often annoyed, and yet they make me better. They by who they are.
So
but I'm proud of them. I'm proud of when I see them out in public, and that's what I mean by the integrity. Like, I'm really proud to go, that's my coach.
Yeah, I love those 4 pillars right there. I mean, I'm definitely going to re-listen to this podcast and write everything down and really dissect it further, because those are things that I stand for. And I'm glad you mentioned inspiration and not motivation, because inspiration comes from within, right? And I tell my clients, friends, my followers this all the time. Motivation is extrinsic. It's also fickle, comes and goes. It doesn't last long. You have to constantly try to replenish it. But inspiration is what lies within. So I'm glad you mentioned inspiration, because it's so powerful.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is that sometimes people mistake that research and they hear charismatic, and I'm like, no, like, it's not charismatic. Inspiring is like, just by their behavior, they inspire you to take action. Just watching them has you want to do more, has you want to be, a more optimal version of who you're designed to be. Like, that's what it is. Like, when I see them, I go, I gotta be moving a little faster. I got to do some more. Okay. Like, when I watch them succeed and them win. And I think that by doing that, when you're with people like that, they want you to win. And so they don't, like, I think a really great coach they don't want you to be connected to only them. They want you to have a whole network of people around you that are winning. It's not just the one woman or one man show. It's they want the success to be so big. That's what I want for my clients. And I want to work with coaches that want that for me.
That's amazing right there. And this is why I endorse coaching so much, right? Because working with the right coach could actually catapult you to success faster, being surrounded by the right people, because we become the average of the folks we connect with, right? We surround ourselves with. And I'm big when it comes to epigenetics, and epigenetics basically states that environment influence genes, right? So we are in a huge petri dish, us as human beings, a huge petri dish, right? And the environment, the various factors, the human beings, the content we consume, the people we connect ourselves with, they all are going to influence you, right?
Yes.
So it's always good to be aware of who you connect with and hire the right coach that's in your space, that's give you the right guidance, because coaches guide. They'll tell you don't really tell you what to do, just literally just guide you towards the right direction. So I'm such a huge component of working with coaches.
And I love you saying that, because my favorite African proverb is, you are the connections you weave. And
Mm.
so you are the connections you weave speaks to the epigenetics, which is you become whomever it is that you surround yourself with. You start to take on their characteristics. Your cells actually align with, and so, that proverb just feels so appropriate to share, with you here now.
And I just got more goosebumps.
Yeah,
Because I resonate. I guess my soul resonate with this as well.
yeah, yeah. I have those angel bumps too. Yes.
Awesome. So now let's dive into storytelling time. I love stories. Okay. So I want you to share with us a time when you realized your methodology to catapult one of your clients towards success, over a hurdle and towards success.
Well, I feel that what happens so often, and it's the same thing, with me, that when we're really close to something, we can't see it. We
Mm,
just you just can't, you just can't see sometimes stuff that's like really right in front of your face. And so when I think about the some of the successes that are the more unusual successes with clients,
mhm,
it's it's really listening to what they say that they want, that is, that they haven't given themselves permission to share. And so, I have a client who um, had come to me and said, I have two kids and I have this business, and I want to have all of the contracts that I can possibly have to grow my speaking business and do the work that I'm called to do. And I said, okay, so that sounds really great. Why is this important to you? Like, why now? And why are you stepping out of this role in a nonprofit to open this business? And what I heard, maybe not necessarily in the words, but what I heard, Thomas, was, I'm modeling what's possible for my kids. Like,
mm.
they didn't
Wow.
say that, but that's what they were speaking about. I'm modeling what's possible. And right now I'm in this career that does not allow me to fully use all of me. It
Mm,
doesn't allow me to come alive every day. And what my kids see is somebody who's really tired at the end of the day, and somebody who does not have the resources to give them what they need. And what ended up happening is, by listening to that and allowing them to understand that fuel and reflect back, that when this client came and said, 8 months later, I have never made this much money in my life,
mm,
and I'm able to now take a summer off to spend with my kids. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about even all of the building of the business and the building blocks and getting her leadership right and working on the proposals and how to get those contracts. It was really about modeling what's possible, and not just for her kids, but for all of the people in her circle. Because just like you talk about, you know, just a moment ago, the epigenetics, it's that we, every time we say yes to something, every time we do our own work, somebody else is watching us. And they're watching us and saying, if this person can do it, then maybe I can too. And so that's the part where I think coaching is just so powerful, because I don't think it's that most people wake up and say, I hope this doesn't work out. I hope I don't figure this out today. I think it's most people wake up excited about the possibilities of a new day and what they can do. And they just get sidetracked by life, by by laundry, or the voices of somebody who doesn't believe in them, or past failures or whatever. And I'm no different, which is the reason why I subscribe. And I don't have one coach, I have three in different
Great.
areas, right?
Mhm.
So with clients, like, to see that, and to see the looks. Then she sent me pictures of her kids on holiday, and um coloring and doing things together. I mean, that there just are no words to that.
That's amazing right there. It's you just conveyed the feeling, right? This is why I love stories, because as you tell your story, I'm living vicariously through you and your client. I'm literally playing it out in my head. I'm feeling the emotion, and this this is what makes coaching such a beautiful thing. You get to see these progress and these results from your clients. You literally help to change this woman's life, not just her life, but her family's life. And like you mentioned, it's the ripple effect, right? The rippling effect,
That's
you
it.
know.
That's exactly it. It lives on. And then what are they going to do? And then what's possible for them? And um, yeah, I think it's interesting. I had a friend of mine who has a coaching business, and uh, she recognized that her kids had never seen anybody go to work, meaning like they work from home, and they had, this is years ago, they'd never seen anybody who actually had a job and go to work, and that didn't even think that that was possible because they'd never seen it. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting, just that we're modeling what's possible, that you can be at home and you can get things done. and
Yes,
and
indeed.
so um so much ripple effect that we don't even consciously, we may not be aware of.
Yes, indeed. And it's funny because that's how the world is, right? One person come up with an idea and it just spreads, right? Come on.
Yes,
We live in, if you look at everything within the world, your car, right? The automobile, right? Um, I'm us having this virtual podcast right now, right? Come on, it's like everything has an effect,
it
literally,
does.
you
It
know.
does. And it had to come from somebody's thought, right?
Indeed, indeed. So normally I ask this question, what drives you? But you've already shown, you've already shared through your experiences and your stories what drives you. So I'm gonna skip that question. So are you currently working on any new projects that you would like to share with us?
Well, there's always new projects. I'm a bit of a visionary, and so that's one of the things my team says is like, oh my gosh, like, can we settle down on the number of projects that are going on? And I'm like, I say, this is just the way my brain works. And
Uh,
so, right now, I moved in December to a 75-acre farm in
wow.
central Kentucky, and it has an event center. And so the thing that I'm working on is putting the farm together so that leaders can come and do their healing work on the land. They can do their leadership work in a place that's safe, that they can do deep work, and there's in very small groups, from individuals, meaning like I have some leaders that are coming to work with me one-on-one, just at the on the farm, and be there and do their work without anybody else around. And then I have 3 15-person retreats set up. And so I'm very excited about getting the farm
That's
ready.
awesome.
I will tell you, like, the one that I'm having coming up, it won't be 100% ready. So I figure the people who come in May, then
Okay.
some of them will come back in August, and they'll see a different experience. And then when they come back later, they'll see they'll see the growth. But that's really what I'm spending a lot of energy right now, is getting the farm in place and the event center in place.
That's awesome right there. That sounds amazing. Being out in nature and being with the animals and just being in space. I live in the city, so I don't get the chance to be on grass as often, right?
Well, you'll have to come to the farm. It is, I never thought that I would do that either. I mean, I've lived outside New York, LA, Miami, DC, Dallas, and this is a whole other way of life. I can't even describe it. It's pretty spectacular.
That sounds amazing. Congrats to you, Lisa. So if someone were to inquire about your services or just want to connect with you, Lisa, because you are literally an amazing person, so we have to keep in contact. Where can they find you?
They would find me at upsidethinking.com. That's the name of my company, and it's Upside, UPSIDE, and the word thinking, THINKING.com, upsidethinking.com, all one word, and you can get on my calendar to have a conversation. I'm on all the social media platforms too, so just find me.
Awesome, awesome. Lisa, thank you once again. So I would like to also thank all of our listeners for lending us their ears and their eyeballs. And I have one last question before we leave, Lisa Marie Platske, and that is, how may I serve you?
How may I serve you? You keep doing your work. Keep changing those lives. That's exactly it.
Awesome, awesome. So once again, this is your host, Thomas Johnson. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it with someone that will benefit. And make sure to tune in for next week's episode. Take care. Be blessed. Take care. We're out. Cheers.
Thank you.